Good morning and welcome to NewsWare's Trade Talk for Friday, January 30th. Okay, let's get into the action. Take a look at the S&Ps. The S&Ps are down 0.43%. Yeah, it's a pretty negative action, and the metals are really weakening this morning. The key focus today on the economic front is really Trump's decision to nominate Kevin Walsh as the next Fed chairman to succeed Jerome Powell. You know, Walsh is kind of an odd candidate. He's really a free trade guy, which goes against Trump's protectionism agenda. So we'll have to see how this plays off. Once you put him on there, you can't take him off. I mean, you can try, which is what he's been doing with Powell, but it's pretty clear you can't get rid of a Fed chair just because you disagree with his agenda and how him and the team is seeing the data. Lawmakers in Washington, they're close. They said to be close to making an agreement on a funding bill. They really want to avoid this shutdown. It could still happen, but we'll have to wait and see. But apparently they're making a lot of progress on it, and there could be an announcement over the weekend. ExxonMobil announced a big buyback. OpenAI is in discussion with bankers regarding a potential IPO for later this year. And then you got the earnings announcements that hit the tape this morning. Apple's trading a little weaker. Who else is trading weaker? American Express is down hard. Chevron is trading off. But what is up is Decker, DECK, and Verizon. Now, moving on into like the earnings coming out, or moving on into the European markets. I mean, we got to look at the DAX. The DAX is up 193 points. That's 0.8%. That's positive. Eurozone economy expanded 0.3% in 2025. Expectations were for 0.2, so that's helping. The FTSE's higher by 38 points, or 0.38%. Metals are weak, but financials are strong, so that's good. In CAC, the Paris, the CAC is up 51 points at 0.64%. The issue here is you're seeing luxury stocks starting to rebound, and that's really helping the CAC turn into some positive territory. We're looking over at Asia last night. Asia generally saw losses. You look at the Nikkei. The Nikkei fell 52 points, which is 0.1%. There was some weakness in tech stocks, but everybody's watching that currency with the Nikkei. And then you have the Hang Seng. The Hang Seng fell 580 points. That's 2.08%. They were weak by, consumer stocks, tech stocks. In China was down 40 points, which is 0.96%. The metals and materials really weighed on the index. They're also cautious ahead of the China's upcoming PMI data, which is expected to come out this weekend. Then we're looking over at oil. Now, oil's been all over the place this morning. I saw it down earlier, like 2%, but now, we're only down 0.67% for WTI. WTI is at $64.98 a barrel. You got Brent at $70.42 a barrel, down 0.41%. Now, the U.S. is easing some sanctions on Venezuela. You got a stronger dollar. And let's not forget, you got an OPEC meeting happening on Sunday. OPEC meeting Sunday. I don't expect anything out of that OPEC meeting, but it is something you always got to pay attention to. Now we're turning our attention over to earnings, and we're looking at Decker Outdoors, ticker DECK. They beat by 57 cents on higher revenue. That stock is really, flying this morning. It's up 14.31%. We got Apple. Apple beat by 17 cents on higher revenue, but you look at the stock this morning. It's up 0.4%. Got ExxonMobil. They beat by 2 cents. They did that on higher revenue. ExxonMobil is trading weaker this morning. It's down 1.57%. Upcoming on Monday, the key one is Disney. Disney's coming out on Monday. Their EPS is $1.56. Expected move is 6.89%. So, that's something to keep an eye on. In terms of economic reports, PPI final demand, that's due out pre-market. That's for December. Chicago PMI is coming out at 9:45. 1 p.m. Baker Hughes rig count. You're going to hear from St. Louis Fed Bank President Alberto Mulsam at 1:30 p.m. and then at 5 p.m. we're going to hear from Fed Governor Michelle Baumann. In terms of the markets, I'm looking at the equities this morning in the Dow stocks. I got 7 higher, the rest are lower. 7 higher, 23 lower. Ooh, that's ugly. And then you're looking at your FANG stocks, and you're seeing really weakness across the board. Apple is starting to show some gains, but Tesla's higher too. So that's kind of positive. You're looking at Apple. The memory shortage is really haunting Apple's iPhone sales right now. They had a blowout iPhone sales this past quarter, but there's a memory issue going on. Remember, silver prices are spiking. Silver prices are spiking, and you need silver to build the components of the iPhone, and that's what's going to make them even more expensive. Who's going to eat that cost? Amazon. There's a story out there saying that Amazon's in talk for a $50 billion investment in OpenAI. Interesting. $50 billion, that's a lot. Tesla, SpaceX is considering a potential merger with either Tesla or XAI. Either way, it's good for Elon Musk, that's for sure. I'm looking at Dow Jones 30 stocks. Microsoft and Perplexity signed a $750 million deal on cloud services. Chevron increased its 2025 worldwide U.S. production by they increased world production by 12% and U.S. production by 16%. Wow. In terms of merger news, GameStop CEO, he's eyeing a major public company acquisition, he came out and said the other day. In terms of guidance, Verizon, VZ, they see adjusted EPS for 2026 coming in $4.90 to $4.95. Street estimates at $4.77, so that's a big uptick. Apple sees Q2 revenue up 13 to 16%. Decker Outdoors raised their full year 2026 EPS view to $6.80 to $6.85. Street estimate is $6.84. So it's in there, but Deckers is really just trading really strong this morning. In terms of buybacks news, ExxonMobil announced plans to repurchase 20 billion shares this year. I mean, that's a big one. All right, let's move on to our pick of the day. I got to go with Apple, ticker AAPL. I mean, the earnings were good. Blowout quarter. It's got positive ratings across the board. Everybody loves the stock, but that straddle price was set for a $10 move. So I'm gonna, you get this really ugly market in front of you. So I have a tendency to say, okay, it's gonna pull back and then it will gain. You're gonna see gains either in the afternoon or in the morning. So I'm going to use an entry price of $249, which is really off, but I do think that, it could hit that level this morning. So keep an eye on Apple, ticker AAPL, for a trade today. Okay, let's move on to our hot off the press segment where we look for, stories that are hitting the market in the last 15 minutes or so that could be moving. Fed's Waller says weak job market supports rate cut. Yeah, apparently we're not looking at the same numbers. Costco launches first same-day websites in France and Spain with Instacart. Verizon, their board authorized a 25 billion share repurchasing program. Wow! That was my stock of the day yesterday. Atlanta's Fed Bostic inflation too high and needs to come down. Walsh at the Fed may not mean looser policy is a sure thing. Verizon reports amended MVNO agreement with Charter and Comcast. All right, that's all I'm seeing for this morning. Okay, so, how we do on yesterday's pick? Well, yesterday's pick was Verizon, ticker VZ. I mean, the stock opened up at $39.58, fell to $39.48. I said $39.40, so I was right in that area. And you look at Verizon this morning, it's trading $41.86. It's up over 5%. gave it to you yesterday. I was 8 cents away from hitting the low entry point, but it was definitely a winner whether you got in at the opening price or because this thing was looked pretty good going into earnings, and I didn't like the other ones, but Verizon, safe, secure, easy. Yeah, Verizon was a good pick, so that was a winner. Okay, traders, you guys know what to do. Let's go out there and let's make some green today.